Hoy fue un día catastrófico para Donald Trump y los republicanos MAGA. Literalmente todo les salió mal. Vimos a MAGA Mike Johnson, el presidente republicano de la Cámara, huyendo de una rueda de prensa desastrosa en el Capitolio. Una escena completamente vergonzosa. Y todo esto ocurrió justo después de que el líder demócrata Hakeem Jeffries lo desafiara públicamente a debatir los temas del cierre de gobierno frente a las cámaras. Pero claro, MAGA Mike se negó. Según él, y por supuesto siguiendo órdenes de Trump, debatir en público sería un teatro innecesario. Dicen que ya no quieren hablar más con los demócratas, tampoco negociar. Ellos mismos están admitiendo que prefieren esconderse antes que rendir cuentas ante el pueblo estadounidense. Y es evidente, ¿no?, que Trump está detrás de todo esto, porque no da la cara, no quiere hacer conferencias de prensa y envía a MAGA Mike a enfrentar el desastre. Pero bueno, basta con solo mirar a la cámara para poder notar que están perdiendo la guerra de la información. Y el país sabe perfectamente quiénes son los responsables de este cierre de gobierno. Y aunque irónicamente Johnson intentó defenderse diciendo que cuando la verdad está de tu lado no hay nada que esconder, pues bueno, terminó en un ciclo de mentiras. Empecemos con esto.
I say the same things privately that I say publicly. We are consistent, and that's why it's easy for me to stand up here and share the facts. When the simple truth is on your side, you have nothing to hide from. I'm just presenting this to the American people. This is the fourth time we've done that. I hate to drag you all out and go through all the details, but I've got to put on the case over and over because repetition apparently is the key to this. People are starting to recognize this is not a Republican shutdown. It is a Schumer Democrat shutdown. Again, why? Because they needed political cover. It's shameless, it is sad, real people are hurting, and it needs to end. They'll have another opportunity this evening, and I sure pray, and I hope you all will, that a handful of additional common sense people on the Democrat side will change their votes, reopen the government, so we can get back to all these issues as we desperately want to do. Thank you all so much for being here.
Mientras tanto, Donald Trump estaba publicando en redes sociales su clásico autoelogio, afirmando que hay buenas noticias para la temporada navideña, que los precios están bajando, que la economía está fuerte, que casi no hay inflación, etc. Yo me pregunto, ¿es en serio? ¿Ustedes sienten que los precios están bajando cuando vas al supermercado? ¿Cuando pagas la renta? ¿Cuando compras medicinas? Pues Donald Trump sigue haciendo lo que ha hecho toda su vida, mentir. Y lo peor es que lo hace hasta con una sonrisa. Volviendo al desastre de MAGA Mike Johnson, un periodista le preguntó sobre los subsidios de salud y el riesgo de que millones de personas vean triplicarse sus primas médicas si es que no se actúa pronto. Y bueno, ¿qué fue lo que dijo? Escuchen.
Yeah, they've been saying that some of the insurance companies will be sending out notices in early November. The last time I checked, it's October 6th. We have the entire month of October. We'll stay here around the clock to work through all these things, but we have to get government open again to do it. They're trying to obscure the issue. We are talking about a simple funding measure that the Democrats themselves have voted on over and over and over. Chuck Schumer, they voted on it 13 times during the Biden administration. This is the exact same thing that was on the floor in March when Chuck Schumer, I should have brought his video and let him give you the speech of why it was so important to pass it. Nothing has changed except the politics. So that's a political issue that they're trying to make out of it.
Como bien señaló la periodista Melanie Dilragio, este hombre no se preocupa si no puedes pagar tus medicinas o si te mueres por la falta de atención médica. Solo le interesa proteger los recortes fiscales para los ricos y luego salir a echarle la culpa a todos los inmigrantes. Lo más absurdo es que con los subsidios que están a punto de expirar, ojo con eso, bastaría solo con una línea en la ley para extenderlos. Solo eso, pero no, ellos prefieren jugar con la salud de millones de estadounidenses. Como lo dijo el gobernador Gavin Newsom, la verdad, MAGA Mike Johnson quiere triplicar tus costos médicos, quiere quitarte la cobertura a 20 millones de personas, quiere que su cierre de gobierno cueste miles y millones de dólares. Y otra cosa, que MAGA Mike es un hombre patético. Escuchen.
If you're not able to extend these subsidies, which is a possibility, it seems, who will own the political impact from that if health insurance does go up 200%?
That's putting the cart like a mile in front of the horse. I believe that the subsidy issue, that's the December 31 issue, is a complicated one. It hasn't worked well. It's filled with abuse. We have a lot of ideas on how to improve upon that if indeed it goes forward. And I mentioned yesterday, there's 535 members when you count House and Senate, and there's probably 400 different ideas on how to fix that. But we need the next couple of weeks to have those vigorous, deliberate debates, which is how the process is supposed to work. So I'm not going to forecast how that comes out, and neither could any of you, because those debates haven't been held yet. And that's kind of the irony, because Chuck Schumer is saying something that he knows isn't true. He's saying, oh, you guys snap your fingers. You and Leader Thune go in the back room and tell us how that's going to be resolved today so we can reopen the government. That's impossible for me to do. I have to have the input of all of our members so that they can figure that out. So that's part of the process. Last one.
Luego Johnson intentó mirar directo a la cámara y decir que los republicanos son los que realmente se preocupan por la salud de la gente. Pues bueno, si tanto le preocupara, tienen que extender los subsidios, o al menos decir cuál es su plan.
So they created a red herring. A red herring is a distraction. They decided that they would pick a fight on health care. Well, let me look right into the camera and tell you very clearly, Republicans are the ones concerned about health care. Republicans are the party working around the clock every day to fix health care. This is not talking points for us. We've done it. A big part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, was to fix health care. Health care is broken in America. It's too expensive. The quality of care needs to rise. We need more access for more people, and we have lots of ideas to do that. But that issue is for debate in the next 3 months. It always was. We have members working on that.
Lo cierto es que no tienen un plan. Su única estrategia es repetir el discurso de siempre. Los demócratas son el enemigo. Incluso el congresista MAGA Randy Fine los llamó terroristas, diciendo que no se puede negociar con ellos. ¿Así quieren gobernar un país? Donald Trump mismo la semana pasada llamó de enemigos internos a los demócratas y lo hizo frente a los altos mandos militares. Y bueno, luego se quejan de que nadie quiere trabajar con ellos. Pues así no funciona una democracia.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we just have about maybe 40 seconds left. How does this end? Look into your crystal ball. Are Republicans going to stand firm?
I hope so. I mean, I intend to. I don't negotiate with terrorists. And what we've learned, and whether it's dealing with Muslim terrorists or Democrats, you've got to stand up and you've got to do the right thing. And I hope that we stand firm and tell them, no, we're not going to retreat on giving free health care to illegal immigrants. We're just not going to do it. And hopefully the American people will rise up and tell them to stop the clown show and get the government reopened.
All right.
Y mientras todo esto sucede, Donald Trump se atreve a presumir de la economía. Estados Unidos está en medio de lo que los agricultores llaman el Farmagedón. Los productores de soya, señores, están quebrando, no pueden vender su cosecha. Y el gobierno está preparando un rescate millonario. ¿Saben por qué? Porque las tarifas fallidas de Trump, las que él decía que harían Estados Unidos más fuertes, son las que causaron esto. Ahora los contribuyentes están pagando miles de millones para poder salvar a los agricultores. Pero claro, para Trump eso no es socialismo. Según él, es patriotismo.
Just shifting gears a little, where are we on trade? Where are we with China? Could you see tariff money being used to support the farmers who obviously are being hit hard by, I think, China retaliated against some of the tariffs recently. Maybe they had slowed buying soybeans last year, but certainly they went to zero in May based on the tariffs.
Right.
Is that an option that's going to happen?
Right. The president has already said that he thinks that the tariff money is going to be useful for helping us find the funds that we need to help farmers. We've had numerous meetings over the last week or two about exactly what we're going to do to help the farmers, but we're taking big measures, and those big measures are going to be public really, really soon. And yes, so for sure, China has, especially for soybean farmers, has stopped buying U.S. soybeans. Right now, the silos are full and there are soybeans sitting on the ground with tarps over them. That's unacceptable to the president. We're calling up all our soybean customers around the world as part of our trade negotiations, and we're also getting ready to have really strong policies to support our farmers.
We haven't heard anything about trade negotiations recently. What happened to India?
It's still a work in progress.
Como si fuera poco, hoy el estado de Illinois tuvo que demandar al gobierno de Trump por este intento, ¿no?, de enviar a la Guardia Nacional de Texas a invadir su territorio. O sea, Trump quiere utilizar las tropas estatales de otro estado para ingresar a Illinois sin autorización.
And is it totally divisive to suggest that just going at black and brown people introduces a ridiculous racial element into this? That is outrageous, what this governor's saying.
It's blood boiling. It is a disgusting smear to say there's racial profiling going on. Our ICE law enforcement are targeting criminals, and they're targeting those who are in this country illegally. Race has nothing to do with it. And for him to do that upon all these attacks on our law enforcement is just despicable. We will continue, though, to surge resources to protect the public in Chicago since J.B. Pritzker refuses to do it. And might I add the fact that J.B. Pritzker refuses to walk his own streets. Secretary Noem was just down there 2 days ago. She saw the rampant violence, the rampant crime, and J.B. Pritzker needs to step up and actually...
La vocera del Departamento de Seguridad Nacional tuvo el descaro de decir que no están aplicando perfiles raciales. Pero a ver, eso fue exactamente lo que argumentaron ante la Corte Suprema y el Tribunal de la mayoría conservadora les dio la razón. Es más, el gobernador de Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, denunció públicamente que Trump estaba ordenando el despliegue de 400 miembros de la Guardia Nacional de Texas en Illinois, Oregón y otros estados, y sin haber hecho ni una sola llamada de coordinación. Amigos, esto ya no es política, esto es una invasión interna. Como lo dijo el propio gobernador, no hay razón para que un presidente envíe tropas militares a un estado soberano sin su consentimiento. Y lógico que tiene toda la razón. Así que mientras Trump se esconde y Johnson hace el ridículo en ruedas de prensa, el país entero está pagando las consecuencias. Millones podrían perder su cobertura médica. Los agricultores están quebrando. Y la Casa Blanca parece estar en guerra con su propio pueblo. Ahora bien, amigos, de esto último que mencionamos, quiero que profundicemos. Y es lo que está pasando en Chicago, ¿no? Es una locura. Donald Trump había ordenado el despliegue de estas tropas de la Guardia Nacional en la ciudad. Y bueno, el gobernador J.B. Pritzker no se quedó callado. Lo acusó directamente de querer militarizar las calles y utilizar a los ciudadanos como enemigos internos. Pero detrás de todo esto, amigos, la movida que hay es mucho más de lo que parece. Y eso es lo que quiero que entendamos el día de hoy. Mientras Trump intenta justificar esta medida hablando de seguridad, hablando de orden, la realidad, señores, es que esto tiene el aspecto a una maniobra política. Es un intento desesperado de querer mostrar fuerza en medio de todo el caos que él mismo ayudó a crear. Así que escuchemos lo que dice el gobernador J.B. Pritzker.
Today is a day when the battle for democracy has perhaps never been clearer. The courts, for now, still holding up the rule of law and ruling in favor of cities and states opposing Donald Trump's efforts to militarize our cities and to use troops against what Trump describes as, quote, the enemy within. Today, the state of Illinois is suing the Trump administration to stop the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. Trump has ordered 400 troops to be mobilized from Texas and then to be sent to Chicago and Portland, Oregon. And that is despite a court order preventing any deployment to the latter. As for Chicago, Governor J.B. Pritzker has long opposed the deployment of troops to his city, saying there is no need for them. Here's what he said in a press conference in the last hour.
I spent the days and weeks following that out and about in our communities, in Bronzeville, in Austin, in Little Village, Berwyn, South Shore, and others, walking and talking and listening to real Chicagoans and local business owners, something Donald Trump, Greg Bovino, Tom Homan, and Kristi Noem have never bothered to do. No insurrections, no invasions, The folks in the neighborhoods do not want armed troops marching in their streets. When it comes to public safety, they want civilian law enforcement when they need them, and jobs, and after-school programs for kids in the neighborhoods. They do not want Donald Trump to occupy their communities. Trump and the thuggery that his agents have brought has actively made us less safe.
Dramatic scenes unfolded in the city of Chicago over the last 48 hours. One woman was shot by federal agents. That sparked further protests and clashes. Agents were also seen throwing tear gas at people on a busy street. On Friday, a Chicago elected official was handcuffed in a hospital emergency room after she asked ICE agents whether they had a warrant to arrest a resident. She will be our guest later in the broadcast. Attorneys for the state of Illinois sum it up like this, quote, defendants' provocative and arbitrary actions have threatened to undermine public safety by inciting a public outcry. When it comes to deploying troops from other states, Illinois says this, quote, the American people, regardless of where they reside, should not live under the threat of occupation by the United States military, particularly not simply because their city or state leadership has fallen out of a president's favor. A battle for the rule of law in this country playing out on the streets of Chicago and other American cities is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. On the ground for us in Chicago, MSNBC senior national political correspondent Jacob Sobroff will join us in a moment. He is at that news conference we just played for you with the governor. Also joining us, retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, who today announced she is running for the open Senate seat in Kentucky. We'll talk about that later, too. And joining me at the table is NYU law professor, MSNBC legal analyst Melissa Murray. Also joining us, MSNBC senior White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. Melissa Murray, let me start with you and just ask if you agree with this idea that for now, the courts are holding, and they are not because of how they're deciding, but that they are still evaluating the facts on the ground, and they happen to be ruling in favor of the cities and states.
Yeah, I think that's really important to remember, that these district courts aren't just flying off the handle and issuing decisions. They are actually amassing evidence. The order from the district judge in Oregon that came out this weekend was very detailed about when the order for federalization of the National Guard in Portland had occurred and how proximate to that order the actual incidents that the president has cited as justifying the deployment of the National Guard actually occurred. And in fact, it's months in time apart. And she's like, that can't be what justifies sending federal troops into a state for ICE enforcement. Like
Trump's still talking about the 2020.
Right. Or even just a few months ago. Yeah. And, you know, one of the things she emphasizes is that in the earlier cases, like, for example, the one in California where the Ninth Circuit stayed a district court's order, so basically allowed the administration to deploy National Guard troops, they emphasize how close in time the alleged rebellion or disruption that the president had used had come with the order for federalization. So it was much closer and much more proximate. She, in this order relating to Oregon, talked about, like, this is actually months apart in time. So we need a closer nexus to the harm that you've identified that would justify deploying National Guard to a particular state. And this just isn't it. It doesn't check out. So there's a lot of record evidence here, a lot of just detailed information about what the situation is on the ground. This isn't Trump derangement syndrome. This is a district judge doing her job, like looking through the evidence and making a reasoned decision about whether or not this needs to be temporarily enjoined.
The sound of General John Kelly's sort of voice in the days before Election Day warning of troops on the streets just rings so loudly in my ears. I mean, this is something that the military has said it doesn't do or want.
No, I mean, again, there are lots of reasons why the founding fathers were very wary of the prospect of a standing army. They really feared the idea that a standing army would essentially allow either a president or Congress to basically be tyrannical, to actually use the power of the military against ordinary people. This is something that they saw in the colonial period with Great Britain. They didn't want it in the United States. So there were all of these checks that they divide power over the armed forces. Congress can declare war. The president can be commander in chief, but only Congress can supply the armed forces. So they try and diffuse this because they understand that a military presence in a domestic context is a terrible idea for citizens.
Jacob Soboroff, have you popped out of that news conference? I don't mean to be doing this on live TV. There you are. Can you hear us?
Sorry, is that Nicole? Was that for me?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, I got you.
Hi.
Forgive me. Sorry.
No. Take me through what news was just made by the governor there.
Sure. I've just stepped outside this news conference, which is still ongoing. The members of the congressional delegation from the Chicago area are all in there. The mayor of Chicago is in there. Other local officials are there with the governor, who obviously sued the federal government today to stop the deployment of the National Guard. And I think, what I took away from listening to Governor Pritzker almost systematically deconstruct every action of the federal immigration enforcement operation here over the course of the past month, which they're calling Operation Midway Blitz, which is also important to note, is being run by Greg Bavino, the same chief of patrol of the Border Patrol that was out in Los Angeles, talking openly about how the March on MacArthur Park was a show of force. He said it was illegal and unconstitutional what the federal government is doing here, particularly as it relates to potential deployment of troops here to Chicago. And Governor J.B. Pritzker said he would use any power under his authority as the governor of the state of Illinois to push back against this, everything that he called a pretext to the invocation of the Insurrection Act to have federal troops on the streets, not just of Chicago, but of cities all across America. It's exactly what Karen Bass warned, the mayor of Los Angeles, when these operations started at the beginning of the summer, that city was a petri dish for other cities across the nation, and Governor Pritzker is basically concurring with that. I asked him in the news conference, and I don't think we have the footage yet, but just to summarize what I asked him about was whether or not, if he was going to use all the authority at his disposal as the governor of the state, would he direct state law enforcement? We've heard Tom Homan say that local law enforcement, federal law enforcement would arrest local officials. I asked him if he would direct his state law enforcement, the Illinois State Police, to somehow stand in the way of these ongoing operations, whether it was the deployment of the National Guard or potentially arrest federal agents that he deems or the state police deem to be doing illegal activity. He would not go that far, but he is putting up a very strong show of force of his own here. I'm standing with the elected officials from this state, saying that not only will they use every legal avenue possible, but they're telling citizens of this city and of this state to show up with their cell phones, to document every second of what's going on in the streets, whether it's that apartment complex on the South Shore that was raided last weekend, or that incident that took place over the weekend where someone was shot, or even what's happening outside the Broadview detention facility where Kristi Noem went up on the roof and was looking down at the assembled protesters. They are not taking this lightly, and it may be as serious or even more so than the officials that I saw in Los Angeles at the beginning of these operations in June.
Let me play a little bit more of the governor at that press conference, talking about, because I feel like we run the risk of repeating a narrative for which there's not a lot of evidence. These are immigration proceedings, but no one has seen any evidence of who was apprehended or who they were looking for or why people were taken and their children left unaccounted for. 4 U.S. citizen children, as of close of business Friday, were missing because their grown-ups have been taken. So let me play the governor on some of that.
Trump's invasion force is not going after the worst, like he said. They're harassing and detaining many people based only on the color of their skin. Tamale vendors, delivery people, people looking for work at Home Depot, and even families just out and about enjoying themselves on a sunny day. Dasha Ramirez, an 8-year-old girl, and her family were detained by federal agents while enjoying a day in Millennium Park. Witnesses saw her crying and clutching her doll. Honestly, what danger did they represent? What is it that they presented that was so awful? And how did detaining them make anyone safer?
So just specifically, what do they say they are doing in Chicago? And what reporting do you have as to what they're actually doing in Chicago?
Yeah, they've said they've detained or apprehended 1,000 people since the start of this operation at the beginning of September. And of course, as always, the federal government is sending out news releases with what they say are the worst of the worst, the people that would traditionally be targets of these federal immigration enforcement operations in cities across America. red states, blue states, you name it. That's what the Border Patrol does. That's what Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Homeland Security investigations is supposed to do. But that is not what is happening on a wide scale here. They have not released a list of 1,000 violent criminals. They have not released a list of 1,000 people who had pending violent criminal charges. In fact, they released short and truncated lists, basically press releases, to highlight the people that they want to highlight. And just like in Los Angeles, we are seeing people at their places of business, out on the streets apprehended, driving vehicles around this city. And I think that is what, as you said, is so important to emphasize. Who are the people in that apartment building that were detained in the middle of the night? Who are the children that are without their parents? Those are questions the federal government has not yet answered. And I should say very clearly, I requested an interview with Greg Bovino, given that we're on the ground here in Chicago.
Ahí lo tienen, señores. El tema está clarísimo. La gente de Chicago no quiere soldados marchando en sus barrios. Quieren empleo. Quieren oportunidades, quieren seguridad civil real, no tropas federales en cada esquina. Y claro que tienes razón, porque lo que está haciendo Trump es reabrir una herida muy peligrosa, y es la idea de que el ejército pueda utilizarse en contra de ciudadanos estadounidenses. Y ojo con esto, porque lo que Pritzker estuvo denunciando no es algo menor. El despliegue de tropas sin una coordinación con el estado en el cual se está haciendo está violando los principios básicos del federalismo. O sea, en pocas palabras, Trump está usando el poder militar para intimidar a gobiernos locales que no se alinean con él políticamente. Y yo creo que solo con escuchar eso ya entienden, ¿no?, que en cualquier democracia eso es autoritarismo. Además hay un detalle, ¿no?, muy importante que los medios republicanos evitan mencionar, y es que los tribunales federales ya le han puesto límite a este tipo de despliegue. Por ejemplo, en el caso de Oregon, el día de ayer esta jueza determinó que no existía ninguna justificación real para enviar tropas, porque los supuestos disturbios, las protestas, habían ocurrido meses atrás y no eran con violencia. O sea, en otras palabras, Trump está actuando con pretextos falsos, está manipulando la narrativa del caos urbano para poder justificar una invasión federal. Y es que si hablamos de seguridad, señores, aquí lo irónico, ¿no?, es que los reportes nos mostraron que la presencia de agentes federales ha aumentado más bien la violencia, no la ha reducido. Hubo manifestaciones, hubo detenciones arbitrarias e incluso hubo disparos. Ese es el orden del que tanto presume Trump, porque lo que está logrando es sembrar miedo, no paz. Lo que estamos viendo en Chicago, amigos, es parte de una tendencia muy preocupante. Donald Trump intentando gobernar por la fuerza, no por el consenso. Y aunque yo sé que algunos pueden aplaudir esas medidas, cada vez más estadounidenses, tal y como lo dijo Pritzker, están despertando. Se están dando cuenta de que esto no es liderazgo. Esto es abuso de poder. Pero bueno, ¿qué opinan ustedes? ¿Creen que Trump tiene derecho a desplegar estas tropas federales sin el consentimiento de los estados? ¿O será que estamos viendo un intento encubierto de imponer voluntad sobre todo el país? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme en este video. Recuerden, como siempre, déjame tu like, suscríbete al canal y comparte el contenido. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.